Good morning, Alan here with another 5 minutes of recovery. And I just want to say, as always, that I'm not a professional speaker. I don't represent any specific 12-step fellowship. That I do this to share my experience, strength, and hope, just in the hopes that maybe someone that's struggling with the disease of alcoholism and drug addiction will seek help. That there's hope. And that being said, when I talk about the literature and the book, I'm talking about the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, because that was the first 12-step program, and that's also where I have my experience. That's where my experience lies. And so before I even get into the topic, I got to tell you that I was laughing, and the reason why I was laughing is because I just recorded this video, and I must have been going at it for about a whole 5 minutes before I realized that I never even hit the record button. and So maybe I wasn't supposed to say what I was going to say, and I'm supposed to say what I'm saying now. I don't know, but let the topic for today is going to be what I like to talk a little bit about is spirituality, and when I talk about spirituality, we talk about God, and a lot of newcomers don't like to hear the word God. I know I didn't when I first came. I actually kind of thought maybe you guys were a cult, and what was all of this stuff about, and I was really confused, and come to find out that when we talk about God, there's a couple of different ways that we could look at it, right? So it's a God of your understanding, and that's important. It's your conception. It's what you believe. It's not what I believe, right? It's whatever works for you. And in the beginning, they talked about God as being good orderly direction, God, or using the rooms, like going to 12-step meetings and the rooms, and like that was a group of people that was staying sober a day at a time, and that was a lot bigger than me. And I use that kind of stuff. And my first sponsor used to tell me, "Do you believe that I believe?" And I could look him in his eyes, and I absolutely believed that he believed. Like there was no doubt. And he was like, "Well, let's start with that." And that was just a way to start to give me a little bit of hope. And so the way that I learned how to do this is just by finally getting to the point in my life, the gift of desperation, where it hurt enough and I wanted to do something different, and I was around here long enough to know that I had to do what other people were telling me to do, that my way just didn't work. So for a long time, like I thought that I could do this, like I was in charge. And for a lot of years I did that. Like I would come in and I would be hopeless, and I would want help, and I would be hurting, and then a few months would go by and I would start to feel better, and I would start thinking that I knew what was good for me. And every time I thought I knew what was good for me, it got me in trouble. So that doesn't work for me. So I had to really like surrender to the fact that like I can't do this. And I can't do it by myself, and that comes to the point that I have to find some kind of power that's greater than me that could help me do that. And what I find that was really helpful to me is when my sponsor, when he started taking me through the steps and we started going through the book, is that in the back of the book, in the appendix on page 567, there's a chapter called The Spiritual Experience. And so it kind of explains the spiritual experience, the spiritual awakening, and that means different things to different people. When I first started coming around, I thought that meant that like God had to come down and touch me in order for me to get sober and have this strong belief and have this faith. And I learned that that's not the case. In fact, that's not my experience. My experience is what they talk about in the book, what William James talks about, which I'll reference right now, of the educational variety. And he talks about quite often friends of the newcomer are aware of the difference long before he is himself. He finally realizes that he has undergone a profound alteration in his reaction to life, that such a change could hardly have been brought about by himself alone. What often takes place in a few months could have seldom been accomplished by years of self-discipline. And so like that, I thought for a really long time that I could do it, right? I could change my self-discipline. I didn't even really have a whole lot of structure or self-discipline. I learned that coming around and being a part of the fellowship and being a part of meetings. But like that sits home for me. So like I was a cheat, a liar, a thief, right? I ran really hard. I was one of them people that ran the streets really hard. I lived in abandonments. Like I don't know, like I ran and I robbed people and I stole and I just did all kinds of stuff that I'm not real proud of today. But those are the things that I did to do what I needed to do so I could stay drinking and drugging. And I recognize today that doesn't make me a bad person. That makes me a sick person. and I'm a sick person getting better a day at a time. And that was a relief too, to really understand that this is a disease, because I really thought that I was a bad person for a long time. And I recognized the fact that I wasn't a bad person, that I was really sick and that I needed help. And so what happened for me, the way that the transformation happened, it was of the educational variety. So like I was just so sick and tired, and I just didn't know what else to do. And I just started following people around and doing what they said. And I don't know when it happened, but somewhere along the line, I woke up one morning and I realized that I started being honest. First, I started getting honest with myself. Then I started being honest with other people. I stopped lying. I stopped stealing. People told me that I couldn't steal, and so I stopped stealing. And it wasn't easy. I ain't gonna lie, it wasn't easy. I was doing that stuff for a really long time. But what I found, that when I did that stuff, I didn't feel good, right? And I wanted to be a part of, and the people that I was hanging out with, then in the meetings that I was going to, they weren't doing that stuff. And so like I started doing what they were doing, and it was amazing. Like it's a miracle, right? That the way that I think about things today is completely different than the way that I thought about things then. And that I don't try to hurt people anymore. Like and I could be selfish. I'm selfish, self-centered to the extreme, and I learned about that when I went through the step process. But I'm not as selfish as I was, right? And today I could think about others, and I could try to be helpful to others. Isn't that the whole reason why I'm sitting here in front of this computer trying to do these videos? I mean, I want to be useful. And so the way that my God works in my life today is through people. And so like I continue to seek and I continue to learn, and I do some stuff, and I learned about structure and I learned about discipline, and I went through the step process, and in the process of all of that, like I got a relationship with God of my understanding, that's amazing. And as long as I continue to seek that, and I continue to like want to grow and move forward, right? Because either we're moving forward or we're moving backward. There's no in between. So like as long as I'm continuing to move forward, then I get to stay clean for another day, because it ain't like this ain't something that goes away. I'm not gonna wake up one day and be like, oh, you're not an alcoholic or drug addict no more. Like this is something that like it's based on my spiritual condition on any given day. So I get a day clean by what I do today, not what I did yesterday. And so like I could take that into a whole nother thing, into gratitude and everything else. But I already went over my 5 minutes of recovery for this week. So if anybody's struggling out there, please reach out. If you've seen this on Facebook, like I'm always open. I'm always around. And just know that like if a guy like me could get and stay sober a day at a time, so could everybody out there. Thanks a lot and have a great week.